Kia ora everyone, my name is Patrick Rose and I am a photographer based in Christchurch, New Zealand. Today I'd like to showcase my experience shooting with the authentic Panasonic Lumix LX100 Mark II. I bought this camera sometime in April of 2022, so just over a year ago, before it was discontinued sometime in November of that same year. I bought this camera at a local camera store, which was Photo Warehouse, for about 1,500 New Zealand dollars. My main reason for buying this camera is based on the aesthetics and the fact that it is the only compact camera with a 4/3 size sensor. Nowadays you can easily find the specs on any forums such as DPReview or Amazon. However, the main ones I will cover in terms of the specs will be the 16 megapixel sensor. It does use a 20 megapixel sensor, but based on the design of the lens, the camera uses only 16 megapixels. However, based on those 16 megapixels, you can readjust the ratio without compromising on any crop, even if you're going 1:1 ratio. The lens itself is equivalent to a 24 to 70 millimeter focal range, and this is a fixed lens, so you cannot remove the lens from the camera. The fast aperture is f1.7, which extends to 2.8 once you reach 70 millimeters, with the shutter dial on the top, which is a really nice addition. As it shows, it is a 1/4000th of a second. That's both mechanical and electronic shutter. Just at the end of the lens, just next to the camera body itself, there is your ratio switch, and the ratios go from 4:3, 1:1, 16:9, and 3:2. On the side you have your various autofocus settings. These include autofocus, macro autofocus, and manual focus. This camera does not have a pop-up flash, however it does have the hot shoe mount, and with that hot shoe you also get a small flash with the camera. However, you can attach external flashes onto this camera. There is also the small EVF on the top left of the camera. Does not articulate like the GX9, but does a really good job at just being discreet, and if you want to get a bit more personal, just taking your photographs and avoiding sunlight, it does a pretty good job. This camera, much like any other Panasonic cameras, records in 4K video at 30 frames per second. On the right hand side of the camera, there is a micro USB which you can charge from, as well as picking out data or extracting photos for the camera. And there is also a micro HDMI port. However, I hardly use the micro HDMI port. The battery this camera uses is the DMW BLG10E battery, which is the same battery used for most of Panasonic's GX series cameras and some of their other LX cameras. According to my Lightroom, I have taken 9,112 photos with this camera, most of which are from events, cityscapes, and my travels. What I enjoy with this camera is the small and lightweight design. At 392 grams, you can easily put it in a small camera bag or a jacket pocket if the pockets are big enough. The aesthetic design resonates to rangefinder cameras such as the Leica and Fujifilm cameras. Interesting fact about this camera is there is also a Leica version, but it is worth another 1,000 New Zealand dollars. Speaking of aesthetics, I bought this adorable case from an eBay store, and it hardly comes off my camera. You can check it out in the link below. In practical use, I really like the slowdown process of using manual shutter, aperture, and exposure compensation dials. Especially with the rising price of film, digital cameras like the LX100 help out in filling that itch of being a photo hipster. The 24 to 70mm equivalent zoom lens is very useful for travel, as cameras like the Fujifilm X100 and the Ricoh GR series have fixed lenses equivalent to 35mm or 40mm. The 4/3 sensor is a great installment, as many compact zoom cameras currently use a 1-inch sensor, which means it does not compromise on the image quality, and it can confidently print up photos in great detail. The built-in Leica lens is very authentic to what I have been shooting with my Olympus OM system gear, especially with the violet and green coating. With customization, I have set my copy of this camera to shoot and view everything in monochrome. However, the raw files still keep all the colors when I edit in Lightroom. If Panasonic decides to bring back the LX100 series in the near future, I hope they may cover the following issues I have experienced when shooting this camera. Let's start with the lens itself. When shooting in direct lighting conditions, you'll see a lot of ghosting, flaring from the green and violet elements. I find the ghosting and flaring to be a major distraction, and it is a pain to remove in post. Continuing my criticism of this lens is that it is prone to getting dust inside the lens, much like I did with my Olympus 14 to 42mm kit lens. I have heard that the Ricoh GR series cameras suffer this issue as well, and it is not a good feeling to go to a Panasonic service room just to clean off dust in a camera that is worth $1,500. The electronic viewfinder is a great addition to this camera, but it should be a higher resolution. When looking around in the EVF, you can notice some red, blue, and green aberrations, which can make your eyes a little sore. The LCD screen should have a tilting screen for street photographers and travelers that like to photograph both in high and low angles. After the success of the Panasonic Lumix S5 II with its phase hybrid autofocus and the Panasonic Lumix GH6 with its new 25 megapixel sensor, the next LX100 camera should have these small improvements to make a better shooting experience. I would also recommend installing a USB-C port over a micro USB port, as the EU ministers have declared as of 2024, all new electronic devices must have a USB-C port instead of a micro USB port. In conclusion, I think this has been a really good camera to use, and I do look forward to using it in future adventures. Despite the minor flaws of this camera, I do really hope that Panasonic can go back and start remaking cameras like the LX100 to really expand upon the market once again. Alright, thank you all for reaching this far into the video. Hope you guys enjoyed this review of the Panasonic LX100. By all means, feel free to like and subscribe on this channel. Be sure to leave a comment on any improvements on just what I could have filled in for this video. Also, be sure to check out my website at www.patrickrose.co.nz. I will also be selling some of my photographs on Darkroom, which will be linked in the description below, along with some of the specs of this camera and where you can purchase the case that I purchased off eBay. Hope you all are enjoying a nice peaceful week, and I will see you all in the next video.